My wife went shopping, but I found her somewhere she shouldn't have been. I never imagined that an ordinary Saturday morning would end with me sitting in my car outside a restaurant, watching the woman I loved more than anything. She was supposed to be at the mall, but now she stood at the entrance of this place, holding another man's hand. My heart sank. This wasn't a coincidence. This was what I had feared the most. Saturday morning. Alex sat in the kitchen, a cup of coffee in his hands. His wife, Kate, was rushing around the house, gathering her purse and checking her phone. She looked unusually focused, a little flustered, but Alex didn't think much of it. "I'm heading to the mall to grab groceries and a few things for the house," she said in her usual cheerful tone, smiling. Alex nodded, teasing her. "Let's hope you don't bring home another vase this time. We already have more than the store does." Kate laughed. "Don't worry, just the essentials." Before leaving, she paused at the door, quickly typing out a message on her phone before slipping it into her purse. There was a glow on her face, almost as if she was excited about something. Alex noticed, but brushed it off as her being in a good mood. Hours passed, but Kate didn't come back. Her absence began to gnaw at Alex. Normally, she'd send him pictures of her shopping or call if she got delayed. This time, nothing. Alex decided to call her. The phone rang and rang, but no answer. He tried to reassure himself. Maybe she just can't hear it. She's probably lost in the aisles. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Another hour went by. Alex's unease grew. He dialed her again, but still no response. Then, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Your wife isn't where she said she'd be. She's at the Blue Moon restaurant right now. If you don't believe me, go see for yourself." Alex stared at the text, reading it over and over. It felt like a cruel joke. But who would make something like this up? A wave of anxiety washed over him. He opened the map app and searched for the restaurant. When Alex arrived at the restaurant, his heart was pounding in his chest. He parked a little distance away and kept his eyes on the entrance. He spotted her car in the lot. She was here. Alex couldn't bring himself to move. He wanted to march inside, but instead, he stayed frozen in his seat, staring at the door. Minutes later, the door opened, and Kate walked out. But she wasn't alone. A man walked beside her. They were laughing, and to Alex's shock, she took his hand. The ground felt like it was crumbling beneath him. How is this possible? This is the woman I trusted with everything. What did I do wrong? Who is this guy? Alex sat in his car, watching as Kate and the man got into her car. She always drove with confidence, but now she looked relaxed, even radiant, as if she was in her own little world. Alex felt his throat tighten with anger and confusion, but he decided not to confront her yet. He needed answers, but first, he needed more proof. As the car drove away, Alex started his own engine and followed them, maintaining a safe distance. Anxiety churned in his stomach, mingling with adrenaline. He'd never done anything like this before, but now he felt like he had no choice. Turn after turn, they drove through the city until Kate stopped at an apartment complex in a quiet neighborhood. She got out with the man, and together they entered the building. Alex remained in his car, staring at the entrance. He tried to rationalize it. Could this be a work meeting? But why would she lie about going to the mall? He wasn't going to wait for answers to fall into his lap. After about 20 minutes, Alex pulled out his phone and started scrolling through her social media. Her last post was from earlier that morning, a picture of a fancy coffee cup with the caption, "Perfect start to the day." Nothing suspicious, but that's what made it unsettling. Kate was usually active on Instagram, sharing updates from her outings. Today, silence. He dug deeper, scrolling through her stories and posts. Nothing provided any clues. Next, he thought of her email. Alex remembered she had an old password she often reused. It was a gamble, but he tried it. Within minutes, he found something odd, a confirmation email for a hotel booking in the city. "Thank you for your reservation. Your room will be ready for check-in at 3 p.m. today." Alex glanced at the clock. It was almost 3. His heart raced. A hotel with this man? Could this really be happening? Or was it just a coincidence? Alex made up his mind. He needed to see for himself. "Excuse me," he said quietly, feigning confusion. "I'm looking for my wife. She might be here." Perhaps Kate Lynch? The receptionist gave him a polite smile and checked the guest list. Her smile faltered briefly before she replied, "I'm sorry, but I can't provide that information." Alex realized he needed a different approach. Spotting the elevators nearby, he decided to try searching the floors. Something deep inside told him the answer was close. Alex stood by the elevator, staring at the floor indicator. His heart pounded so loudly it felt like the entire lobby could hear it. He knew every step forward could change his life forever. The elevator doors opened, and Alex stepped in. He pressed the button for the top floor, deciding to start at the highest point. When he reached the floor, he was greeted by an oppressive silence. The corridor stretched out before him, and Alex began to walk carefully, his eyes scanning the door numbers. Questions raced through his mind on an endless loop. What if it's true? What if she's cheating on me? And what will I do if it is? Suddenly, he heard familiar laughter. It was her voice. It came from a room further down the hallway. Alex froze. The laughter was light, genuine, the kind he hadn't heard at home in a long time. He moved closer to the door, holding his breath and listening intently. Another voice, a man's, spoke from within. Though the words were muffled, the tone was calm, even tender. Alex took a step back. His head was spinning. All he wanted to do was burst through the door, but something held him back. Maybe it was fear of facing the truth. He decided to wait. Retreating to the elevator, he positioned himself where he could see the door to the room. Alex watched, unblinking, as time crawled by, 20 minutes, maybe more. His focus never wavered until the door finally opened. Kate stepped out first. She looked happy. Her face glowed as if she had just experienced the best time of her life. Behind her, a man followed. Tall, with short hair and a confident demeanor, he said something to Kate, and she laughed in response. Then it happened. She reached out, gently ran her fingers along his arm, and took his hand. Alex felt something inside him shatter. This wasn't a friendly gesture. It was something that couldn't exist between mere acquaintances. He barely managed to contain himself from shouting, but instead, he stayed put, hiding around the corner. They walked to the elevator and disappeared behind its doors. Alex was left alone in the suffocating silence of the hallway. His head buzzed with thoughts. He finally had proof. This wasn't just suspicion or his imagination. This was the truth he had been avoiding. But now what? Back home, Alex found no solace. His mind replayed the scenes from the hotel. Kate's radiant smile, her touch on that man's arm, their ease and intimacy. This was no longer doubt. It was undeniable evidence. But it wasn't enough for Alex. He needed to know more. He needed to understand just how far it had gone. Sitting at the dining table, Alex opened his laptop. He remembered a private investigator a friend had once recommended. This was a professional who dealt with situations like this. Alex found the number and hesitated before pressing the call button. "Good afternoon. This is Private Investigator Mike Smith. How can I help you?" A confident voice answered. "Hi, my name is Alex. I need your help. It's a personal matter. I think my wife." "I need to know the truth," Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady. Mike listened carefully, asking Alex for details, Kate's address, her car, the places she frequently visited. With every word, Alex felt as if he was exposing his entire life to a stranger, but he had no other choice. "Don't worry, Alex. We'll find out everything. I'll update you as soon as I have any information," Mike assured him, ending the call. The days dragged on. Alex acted as if nothing was wrong, trying to hide his growing unease. Kate seemed carefree, joking, chatting with him, behaving just like she always had. But Alex now saw her in a different light. Every call, every text she received felt suspicious. One evening, while Kate was in the shower, Alex noticed her phone on the table. He hesitated but couldn't resist. Unlocking the screen, he scrolled through her recent messages. Nothing unusual stood out, except for one name, Mark. The messages had been deleted, but Alex memorized the number. "Mark," he repeated to himself, trying to piece together any connection to that name. The next day, Mike called. His tone was calm, but his words hit like a hammer. "Your wife has met this man several times in the past week. They haven't just been meeting at hotels. I've seen them together at a restaurant and even at the park. They seem close. Alex felt his hands go cold. What does that mean? Are you sure? I'll send you photos, Mike replied. Minutes later, Alex received a message. The pictures showed Kate and Mark sitting on a park bench, talking and laughing. Their faces were lit with happiness, their body language far too intimate to be just friends. Now Alex had a name and a face for the person standing between him and his wife. But the question remained, what do I do now? He decided he needed more proof before confronting Kate. Keep observing them, Alex told Mike. I want to know everything. When they meet, what they talk about. And if possible, find out more about him. Mike assured him the investigation would continue, and Alex ended the call. His waiting turned into days filled with anxiety and uncertainty. The days felt endless. Alex paced around the house, walking on eggshells, trying not to let his emotions slip. Kate carried on as if nothing had happened, but to Alex, every little thing she did seemed suspicious. She began going out more often, claiming she had plans with friends or errands to run. Each time, Alex felt something inside him crack a little more. One evening, Kate told him she was going to visit her friend Julia. Alex simply nodded and watched as she left the house. As soon as the door closed, he called Mike. She's gone. I think she's meeting him now, Alex said. I'm already on it, Mike replied curtly. I'm tracking her. I'll let you know if anything comes up. A few hours later, Alex's phone buzzed. A message from Mike. Your wife met Mark. They entered an apartment in the city together. She rented it under her name. Do you want the address? Alex froze, staring at the message. Thoughts raced through his mind. An apartment? Why does she need an apartment? And why in her name? This can't be a coincidence. He took a deep breath and called Mike. Yes, I want the address, Alex said, his voice cold and resolute. Minutes later, he received the location. Grabbing his car keys, Alex headed there, unable to wait any longer. His heart pounded in his chest, each second stretching into an eternity. Alex stood in front of the apartment door. Behind it lay the truth he feared to confront. He could hear faint voices, her voice, his voice. Alex raised his hand to knock, but hesitated. Part of him still clung to the hope that this was all a misunderstanding. Finally, he knocked. The voices stopped. Moments later, the door opened, and Kate stood there. She looked stunned to see him, her face first pale, then clouded with guilt. Alex, what are you doing here? Her voice was unsteady, but Alex wasn't listening. Over her shoulder, he saw Mark standing in the room, holding a glass of wine. The man looked calm but wary. Alex stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Kate. Is this him? Alex asked coldly. Are you seeing him? In this apartment you rented behind my back? Kate didn't answer. Her lips parted as if to speak, but Alex cut her off. Don't bother. Just tell me the truth, he said, his voice sharp. Kate took a deep breath. Alex, I don't know how to explain this. It's not what you think, she said, but the words rang hollow. Alex couldn't hold back. Not what I think. You're here with him, in an apartment you rented, and you're telling me it's not what I think? How can you even say that? Mark stepped forward, attempting to intervene. Listen, Alex, maybe we should talk about this calmly. He began, but Alex snapped. You need to shut up. I don't want to hear a single word from you, Alex said, his voice seething with anger. Kate reached out to touch his arm, but Alex pulled away. When did this start? He demanded, his eyes locking onto hers. How long have you been lying to me? Tears welled up in Kate's eyes. A month, she whispered. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Alex felt his chest tighten. Happened? He repeated, his voice laced with both rage and heartbreak. You're calling this a mistake? Without waiting for an answer, Alex turned and walked out of the apartment, leaving Kate and Mark in guilty silence. Alex drove home with the engine still running. He sat in the car in the dead of night, staring at the steering wheel. His mind was a storm of emotions. Every memory of their life together hit him like a hammer. Her smile, their plans, all the promises. Now, it all felt like a lie. Finally, he got out, locked the car, and entered the empty house. A house that had once been a sanctuary now felt cold and alien. Alex walked into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Beside her pillow lay the book she always read before sleeping. He shoved it aside, accidentally knocking the bedside lamp to the floor. The light went out. In the darkness, Alex made a decision. He didn't need more conversations, excuses, or tears. Summoning his strength, he began to act. For the next few hours, Alex worked in complete silence, methodically packing Kate's belongings. He opened closets, pulled out her clothes, cosmetics, and little trinkets. All the items that had once been part of their shared life now brought him nothing but pain. Each thing he placed in the suitcase was a reminder of her betrayal. In the kitchen, he saw her coffee mug, the one she used every morning. Alex paused, feeling a wave of anger rising. He grabbed the mug and hurled it against the wall. The ceramic shattered into pieces. It didn't help. The pain ran too deep. By dawn, everything was ready. Kate's belongings were neatly packed and placed by the door. Alex sat at the kitchen table and composed a short message. Kate, your things are by the door. I don't want to hear any more lies. You knew what you were doing and made your choice. Now it's my turn. Pick them up today. After that, I don't want to see you in this house. He hit send and set the phone down. A few hours later, Alex heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. He didn't get up. The door opened, and he heard Kate step into the foyer. Her voice trembled as she called out, Alex, can we talk? He stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed over his chest, his face unreadable. There's nothing left to talk about, Kate. Your things are packed. Take them and leave. His voice was cold, devoid of any emotion. Kate walked closer, her eyes brimming with tears. It's not that simple. We're a family. I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean everything is lost. Alex let out a bitter, short laugh. Family? Families don't betray each other. Families don't rent apartments to meet with their lovers. You destroyed everything, Kate, and now you have to live with it. She reached out, trying to touch him, but he stepped back. Don't, Kate. Just go. I don't want to hear it anymore. Kate lingered for a moment, as if hoping to find a way to change his mind. But when she realized it was impossible, she picked up her suitcases and left, closing the door behind her. When the house was quiet again, Alex felt an odd sense of relief. His heart ached, but at least now, everything was clear. He no longer had to live in lies. Now, he could start over, without her. The house felt empty. The silence, once a source of comfort and peace, now weighed on Alex like a heavy burden. For the first time in years, he woke up alone. No familiar smell of coffee, no sound of Kate bustling in the kitchen. The emptiness wasn't physical, it was emotional. Alex knew he needed to take action. He couldn't let himself get lost in the memories of what was gone. He started with small changes. He changed the house's security code, removed any remaining traces of her belongings, and even rearranged the furniture to break the reminders of their shared life. Determined to focus on himself, Alex signed up for the gym, a goal he had always put off with excuses. Morning runs became his new ritual, a way to clear his mind and regain control of his life. His friends noticed the shift in his behavior. One of them, Jason, invited Alex to meet up at a bar. At first, Alex hesitated, but eventually agreed. The gathering was loud and filled with laughter and music. Alex felt out of place at first, but slowly, he began to enjoy the company of others. One woman, a friend of Jason's named Emma, struck up a conversation with Alex. She was sharp, witty, and easy to talk to. Initially, Alex felt awkward, but over time, he realized that her attention was helping him forget the pain. Weeks passed, and Alex started to feel like his life was returning to normal. He was beginning to move forward, but fate had other plans. One day, while returning from his morning run, Alex spotted Kate. She was standing outside a coffee shop they used to visit together. She looked worn out, but when her eyes met Alex's, they lit up. "Hi, Alex," she said hesitantly, as if unsure if she had the right to speak to him. "Kate," he replied tersely, working to keep his emotions in check. "You look good," she continued. "Maybe we could talk? I know this isn't the time or place, but I'd like to explain everything." Alex paused, torn between the urge to let out everything he was feeling and the realization that it no longer mattered. I don't think there's anything left to discuss, Kate. It's all clear now, he said before walking away, leaving her behind. After that encounter, Alex realized his life was no longer tethered to the past. He was now building something new, something that belonged solely to him. Emma reappeared in his life, inviting him to an art exhibit. Although Alex wasn't sure he was ready for a new relationship, he decided to give it a chance. The evening turned out to be light and pleasant. Emma was an engaging conversationalist, and for the first time in a long while, Alex felt he could simply enjoy the moment. As they strolled the streets after the exhibit, Emma suddenly asked, "You seem like you've been through a lot recently, but it looks like you're coming out stronger. Is that true?" Alex smiled. "Yeah, it's true. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what you really need." A few months passed, and Alex's life began to take on new colors. He no longer woke up feeling empty. Emma gradually became an important part of his life. Their meetings became more frequent, and with every conversation, Alex felt that with her, he could be himself again. Without masks, without pain. One evening, Emma invited Alex over for dinner. He hesitated but agreed. Her apartment was cozy, with bookshelves lining the walls and candles creating a warm atmosphere. They sat in the kitchen, laughing and sharing memories. "Alex, you seem so strong, but I can tell you're still struggling with something," Emma said, pouring a glass of wine. "I don't want to push, but if you ever want to talk, I'm here to listen." Alex paused, uncertain if he was ready to open up. But there was something about Emma that inspired trust. He told her about Kate, their life together, and the betrayal that shattered it all. Emma listened silently, never interrupting, occasionally squeezing his hand when he faltered. "You deserve better," she said when he finished. "The fact that you went through all that and didn't break proves just how strong you are." In the weeks that followed, Alex experienced a turning point. He realized he no longer wanted to dwell on the past. He spent more time with Emma, helping her with her projects, sharing his thoughts and dreams. She became someone he could truly be himself with. One weekend, they decided to take a trip to a small town nearby. For the first time in a long while, Alex felt genuinely happy. They walked the old streets, admired the views, and savored every moment together. "You know," Alex said, looking at Emma, "I thought I'd never be able to trust anyone again, but you changed that. You've made me believe there's more to life than pain and betrayal." Emma smiled and lightly touched his hand. "I just want you to be happy, Alex. And if I can be part of that, then that's happiness for me." Returning home after the perfect weekend, Alex received an unexpected call from his friend Jason. "Hey, Alex, this might sound strange, but I saw Kate yesterday. She wasn't alone. And guess who she was with? That guy, Mark. But here's the thing. They didn't look like a couple. It seemed like they were discussing something very seriously." This news left Alex with mixed emotions. He tried not to give it too much thought, but the idea of Kate and Mark together again planted a seed of doubt. Had he really known everything about their relationship? Was there something Kate hadn't told him? Alex decided to leave it in the past, but an inner voice nagged at him that this story wasn't over yet. For the next few days, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was unresolved. He tried focusing on work and his relationship with Emma, but thoughts of Kate and Mark lingered. What could they have been discussing so seriously? If it was just an affair, why were they still meeting? One evening, after returning from a workout, Alex made a decision to investigate something he'd been putting off for too long. He remembered the phone number he had copied from Kate's phone, the number belonging to Mark. His heart raced as he entered the number into a Google search. What he found left him stunned. Mark wasn't hard to find. Alex came across his LinkedIn profile, which showed that Mark worked at a major law firm. But that wasn't what caught Alex's attention. Mark had previously worked at a company Alex was very familiar with, a company Kate had worked for years ago, before they were married. Alex paused, deep in thought. Kate had never mentioned Mark in the context of her work. Why? He remembered that during her time at that company, she had gone through a difficult period. She had told him she left because of workplace issues. But what if there was more to it? His next step was a call to Mike, the private investigator. Alex shared what he had found and asked Mike to dig deeper. Mike agreed, warning that it could take a few days. A week later, Mike called back. There was tension in his voice. Alex, you were right. There's more to this than just an affair. I did some digging, and here's what I found. A few years ago, when Kate worked at that company, both she and Mark were involved in a serious financial scandal. At the time, Mark was her supervisor. Alex froze. A scandal? What kind of scandal? It involved embezzlement, Mike explained. On paper, the blame was placed on another employee, but Kate and Mark were clearly implicated. Kate managed to avoid any serious consequences, but Mark kept all the evidence. It looks like he's using it as leverage now. Alex was silent, trying to process what he had just heard. He's blackmailing her? Is that why she started meeting him? That's what it looks like, Mike replied. I've got some recordings of their meetings. She seems scared. This doesn't look like a romantic relationship. It looks like she's trying to avoid even bigger trouble. Alex felt a wave of anger wash over him. Kate had betrayed him, but now he realized her motives might have been more complicated than he had thought. He decided it was time to confront her and get the answers he deserved. That evening, Alex called Kate. Her voice was cautious when she answered. Alex, why are you calling? We need to talk. Meet me tomorrow at our usual coffee shop. I want the truth, he said. Kate was silent for a moment before replying softly, okay. The next day, Alex arrived at the coffee shop. Kate was already there, looking exhausted, her face pale. She avoided his gaze, nervously twisting her coffee cup in her hands. I know about Mark, Alex began as he sat across from her. I know he's blackmailing you. I want to know what happened. Kate looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Alex, it's complicated. Yes, he's blackmailing me. This all started years ago, before us. I made a mistake back then, a mistake I've been trying to forget. But Mark didn't forget. Now he's using it to keep me under his control. You should have told me, Alex said coldly. You should have trusted me, not him. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't want you to know. I didn't want to lose you. Alex leaned back, feeling anger boil inside him. But you already lost me, Kate. You made that choice. I don't care what he's holding over you. I don't want to be part of this. Kate lowered her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I understand, Alex. But please, don't leave me. I can't face this alone. Alex sat in his car, parked a short distance from the coffee shop where he had just had his final conversation with Kate. Her words still echoed in his mind, but he felt neither pity nor regret, just emptiness. He recalled her tears, her pleas for help, but he had come to one conclusion. This chapter of his life had to end once and for all. Kate made her choice when she decided to hide the truth. She had betrayed him not only as a partner, but as the person he trusted more than anyone. Now, the only thing left to do was move forward. Alex returned home and immediately began making changes he had put off for too long. He deleted every photo of Kate from his phone and social media, gathered her remaining belongings from the house, and donated them to charity. He needed to remove everything that reminded him of the past. Emma became his support during this difficult time. She didn't push him or ask too many questions. She was simply there for him. One evening, as they had dinner together, Alex told her, I've decided I'm not going to let the past control me anymore. I'm ready to start a new life. Emma smiled. That's a big step, Alex. You're stronger than you realize. A few days later, Alex met his friend Jason at the bar where they often used to hang out. Alex shared his final decision to leave Kate and move on. You did the right thing, Jason said, taking a sip of his beer. You gave her a chance, and she blew it. She chose lies, and you chose the truth. It wasn't easy, Alex admitted, but now I know it's what's best for me. I have a future, and I want to build it without carrying this baggage. Despite his resolution to leave everything behind, Alex unexpectedly ran into Mark. It happened at a grocery store. Mark spotted Alex and tried to avoid him, but Alex walked straight up to him. His voice was cold but controlled. I know what you've done with Kate, Alex said. I know you're blackmailing her with that old scandal, but I'm no longer part of this. If you think you can use me or hurt me, you're dead wrong. Mark tried to deflect. I don't know what you're talking about. This is between me and Kate. Then stay with her. But know this, I know who you are, and I'll keep you at arm's length, Alex said before turning and walking away, leaving Mark standing there, expressionless. Alex fully immersed himself in his new life. He started taking personal development courses, spent more time with friends, and focused on his goals. His relationship with Emma continued to grow stronger. She helped him see new possibilities and rediscover himself. One evening, they sat by a lake, watching the sunset. For the first time, Alex felt truly free from his past. "Thank you for being there for me," he said to Emma. "I don't know if I could have gotten through all this without you." "You did it yourself," Emma replied with a smile. "I just gave you a little support." One evening, after a long day, Alex came home and noticed a message on his phone. It was from Kate. He stared at the screen for a while before opening it. The text was short. "We need to talk. It's important. You need to know the truth about Mark." Alex gripped the phone tightly. His first reaction was anger. What more could she possibly have to say? But something about the message piqued his curiosity. He thought back to their last conversation and how Kate had looked then. It seemed like she really was hiding something. After a few moments, he replied, "Whatever you have to say it now. I'm not meeting you." Kate's response came quickly. "This isn't something for a text. Please, Alex. This involves more than just me." The next day, they met in a park they used to visit together. Kate was already there when Alex arrived. She looked exhausted, her face pale, her eyes red as if she hadn't slept in days. Alex approached and sat down across from her, keeping his distance. "You have 5 minutes," he said coldly. Kate took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Mark, he's not just blackmailing me. What he's holding on to is more than just my secret. It could affect a lot of people, including you." "Me?" Alex frowned. "Do you remember the company I used to work for?" Kate began, her voice shaky. "Back when the scandal happened, Mark wasn't just my boss. He used me, just like he used so many others. But the worst part is, he's still running those illegal operations. I became part of it without even realizing. And now, if it all comes out, I could face the consequences. But so could others, including you, Alex. Do you remember helping me with some paperwork for one of those deals?" Alex felt his chest tighten. He recalled that time, early in their relationship, when Kate had asked him to help with a few contracts she was editing at home. He had assumed they were just standard work documents. "Are you saying I'm involved in this?" he asked coldly. Kate nodded, lowering her eyes. "Mark threatened that if I didn't follow his demands, he'd hand over those documents to the police and implicate both of us. He knows you signed one of them without realizing it was part of his scheme." Alex shot to his feet, anger and disappointment surging through him. "So, you dragged me into this without telling me the truth? And now, when everything's falling apart, you come to me, expecting me to fix it?" "Alex, I didn't know it would go this far," she pleaded. "I thought it would stay between me and Mark. But now it could all blow up. If it does, he'll ruin both of us." "Ruin?" Alex laughed bitterly. "Kate, you've already ruined everything. I want no part of this. If you want to save yourself, that's on you. Don't expect me to help." Kate reached out, trying to grab his arm, but he stepped back. "Alex, please. You're the only one who can help me stop him. If we work together, we can expose him. I know where the documents are that prove his guilt." Alex stood in silence for several seconds, his mind racing. He could sever all ties with Kate and leave her to deal with her problems. But if she was telling the truth, his own name could end up at the center of the investigation. And if there really was a way to bring Mark down, maybe he could finally put this chapter behind him. "I'll think about it," he said curtly before walking away, ignoring her protests. Alex returned home with a heavy heart, but his decision was clear. He would not involve himself in Kate and Mark's mess. The past had already caused him enough pain, and he wasn't going to let them destroy the new life he was building. His first step was to consult a lawyer. The next day, Alex met with his friend Tom, a lawyer specializing in cases like this. They sat in a small conference room, and Alex laid everything out. The scandal, the documents Kate had tricked him into signing, and Mark's threats. "If this is true, Mark might try to use those documents against you," Tom said after listening carefully. "But if you didn't benefit financially and weren't knowingly involved in the scheme, you have a strong case to prove your innocence." "What should I do now?" Alex asked. First and foremost, don't engage in any discussions with Mark or Kate. Second, gather any evidence that shows you weren't aware of their illegal activities. Emails, contracts, anything that proves you acted in good faith. After the meeting, Alex made the decision to cut Kate out of his life completely. He blocked her number and deleted every way she could contact him. His decision was final. He wanted nothing more to do with her. Emma became Alex's anchor during this turbulent time. He told her everything, and though she was shocked, she fully supported his decision to leave the past behind. "You did the right thing," she told him. "These are their problems, and they need to solve them. You can't take responsibility for someone else's decision to ruin your life." With Emma's support, Alex continued to rebuild his life. He focused on his personal growth, his career, and his future. Though the past still lingered in the background, he knew he had made the right choice to move forward. A few days later, Alex received an unexpected visit. Kate stood on his doorstep, looking even more worn out than she had during their meeting in the park. She held a stack of papers in her hands. "I know you blocked me, but you need to see this," she began. But Alex cut her off sharply. "Kate, I told you I don't want to hear anything more. You made your choices. Now they're your problems. Leave." "Alex, please." Her voice cracked. "If you don't want to help me, at least protect yourself. Mark has everything he needs to drag you into this scandal." Alex stood still, staring at her. "I've already done everything I need to protect myself. This doesn't involve me anymore." Kate tried to respond, but Alex slammed the door in her face. He didn't want to hear another word. Alex continued working on safeguarding himself. Together with his lawyer, Tom, he gathered all the necessary documents and prepared for any potential fallout. He even filed a request with Kate's former company to confirm his lack of involvement in any financial wrongdoing. Emma suggested they take a few weeks away so Alex could escape from the stress. They headed to the mountains, where they spent their days enjoying nature and the peace of being far from the city's noise. Those days helped Alex feel like he was regaining control of his life. Kate didn't try to contact him again. Alex assumed she had either resolved her problems on her own or found herself in even deeper trouble. Either way, he no longer cared. He had learned to move forward without looking back. One evening, sitting by the fireplace with Emma, Alex realized he finally felt at peace. The past was behind him, and ahead lay a new life, free from lies and betrayal. Months passed, and Alex's life returned to a steady rhythm. He felt free from his past, focused on building his relationship with Emma, and no longer thought about Kate or Mark. But one day, his phone rang, and the name on the screen made his heart stop. "Mike, the private investigator." "Alex," Mike began, "I know you said you didn't want to hear any more about this, but I've come across something that might change how you see the whole situation." Alex felt his chest tighten. "Mike, I told you to stop investigating. Why are you calling me?" "I know, but this is important. It's not just about Kate and Mark. This could impact your future. We need to meet." Alex sat at a cafe table when Mike arrived. His face was serious, and he carried a thin folder in his hand. Sitting down, Mike placed the folder on the table. "What's this?" Alex asked. "These are documents I found during one of my final investigations. You need to see this." Alex opened the folder. Inside were copies of contracts tied to the financial scandal involving Kate and Mark. But what shocked him the most was seeing his own name among the signatures. These were the same documents Kate had asked him to sign years ago. This can't be real," Alex whispered. "I didn't know I was signing this." "I understand," Mike said, "but that's not the biggest issue. These documents were handed over to a major law firm a few weeks ago. If Mark decides to use them, he could file a case against you, even if you didn't know what you were signing." The tension Alex had fought so hard to leave behind returned in full force. He immediately called his lawyer, Tom, and explained what Mike had found. "We need to act quickly," Tom said. "If these documents are legitimate, we'll need to prove that you had no malicious intent and signed them without knowing they were part of illegal activities." "And if we can't prove that?" Alex asked. "Then you could face serious legal consequences. But there's also a chance Mark won't want to escalate this if he's too busy dealing with his own problems." Alex sat in silence after the call, realizing the past he had tried so hard to escape had come back to haunt him. But this time, he was determined to fight back and protect the future he was building for himself. Alex realized the only person who might help him make sense of this was Kate. For the first time in months, he dialed her number. "Alex." Her voice sounded surprised. "I thought you didn't want to hear from me again." "Kate, I know about the documents. And if you don't tell me the whole truth now, the consequences could be serious for both of us. We need to meet." They agreed to meet at her new apartment. Kate looked unsettled, but not as broken as before. She invited him to sit and began explaining. "Alex, I didn't know at the time how much Mark had complicated everything. Those contracts were structured to make it look like everyone who signed them was part of the scheme. But it was a setup. He forced me to persuade others to sign. I'm guilty of that, but I never intended to drag you into it. Do you realize those documents could ruin my life?" Alex asked, barely containing his anger. Kate lowered her head. "I know, but I think I know how to stop this. I have copies of documents that prove it was all a setup. If we turn them over to the police, we could expose Mark." Alex faced a difficult choice. Work with Kate to take down Mark or rely entirely on his lawyer and keep his distance. He knew getting involved could be risky, but also understood that staying passive was no longer an option. Alex chose to stay the course, keeping his distance from Kate and focusing on his own defense. He met with his lawyer, Tom, to discuss the new developments. "We have one strong point," Tom said as he reviewed the documents Mike had provided. "These papers show you signed them without context. You weren't working for the company at the time, so you couldn't have understood what you were signing. And that's enough to help me?" Alex asked, tension evident in his voice. "It's a big advantage, but we need more evidence to prove you acted without malicious intent. Do you have any messages from Kate from that time? Anything that shows you signed these at her request?" Alex thought about it. He remembered having an old phone backup in the cloud and decided to check for anything relevant. That evening, Alex combed through his archives on his laptop. He found messages from Kate from several years ago. One of them read, "Alex, can you sign these papers for me? It's just a formality, something I need for work." This message was the first step in building his defense. Alex forwarded it to Tom, who replied, "This is exactly what we need. We can use it to show you were misled and had no idea about the scheme." A few days later, Alex received an unexpected call from an unknown number. On the other end was Mark. "Alex," Mark began, "I know you're trying to use your lawyer to get out of this, but trust me, I have far more evidence than you think. If you go against me, it won't end well for you." "Is that a threat?" Alex asked coldly. "It's a fact. Everyone who's tried to take me down has regretted it, so I suggest you stay out of this. Just let it go." Alex didn't respond and hung up. But now he knew. Mark was nervous. That meant he had weak spots. Tom worked tirelessly on the case, gathering everything necessary. The messages from Kate, proving Alex signed the documents at her request. Evidence showing Alex was not employed by the company involved in the scheme. Proof that Alex did not financially benefit from the contracts. "If Mark tries to implicate you, we have a strong case," Tom said during one consultation. "But be prepared for this to drag out." Kate tried to reach out again. She sent long messages, insisting that her testimony could help, but Alex ignored every attempt. He knew her words were meaningless now. She had dragged him into this mess, and he wanted nothing more to do with her. "If she really wants to fix her mistakes, she can do it without me," he told Tom. A month later, Mark followed through on his threat and filed a case, attempting to shift part of the blame onto Alex. But Tom was prepared. At the first hearing, Alex's lawyer presented all the evidence proving that Alex had been deceived and had no knowledge of the nature of the documents he signed. The judge, though strict, acknowledged that Alex's position was convincing. The case was moved to the next stage, but Tom was confident they were on the path to victory. The legal battle became Alex's final trial. He endured sleepless nights, endless meetings with Tom, and the anxiety leading up to every hearing. But now, the end was in sight. Mark had done everything in his power to avoid accountability, but during the final hearing, the case was decided against him. The court ruled that Alex had no intent to participate in any financial wrongdoing, and that his signature had been obtained through deception. All charges against Alex were dismissed. Meanwhile, Mark faced a full-blown investigation, and his connections and blackmail tactics could no longer shield him from the law. As Alex left the courthouse, he spotted Kate waiting near the entrance. She looked weary but oddly calm. "Congratulations, Alex," she said softly. "You deserve this." "It doesn't matter anymore," he replied, stopping in front of her. "I'm just glad it's over. And we're over too." Kate lowered her eyes, making no attempt to defend herself. She knew their connection was irreparably broken. "I just want you to know that I'm truly sorry, and that you were the best thing that ever happened to me." Alex nodded and walked away, never looking back. The days following the case felt like a fresh start for Alex. Emma stood by his side, supporting him at every step. Their relationship grew stronger, as Alex finally felt he could completely trust her. One evening, as they strolled along the lake's edge, Alex stopped and looked at Emma. "I never thought I could feel whole again after everything that happened," he said. "But you gave me that." Emma smiled. "You did it yourself. I was just here to support you." "What would you have done? Would you forgive the past and move forward, or would you fight to the end for justice? Let me know in the comments. What would you do?